Hallo, das ist Franz Preis. Ich bin ein Racing Cross America Fahrer und nehme 2018 zum fünften Mal am RAM teil. Hello, this is Franz Price from Austria. I'm a Race Across America solo rider, and in 2018 it will be my fifth Race Across America participation. And thank you, OhioRAAM Show, for inviting me.
Thank you, Franz, for that introduction to the show. And Franz Price from Graz, Austria, will be on the show next time on November 27th. And this is the OhioRAAM Show, a show about cycling and ultracycling. I'm your host, Lee Kreider, and this is show number 170. The OhioRAAM Show emerged from the founding of the time stations 41 in Oxford, Ohio, and time stations 42 in Blanchester, Ohio, for the Race Across America. And on today's show, we have Ben Dodge from Phoenix, Arizona. He is an attorney. He practices exclusively bicycle law, bicycle accidents, etc. And we're very happy to have him with us. He is also a veteran of the Race Across the West, and in 2018, he plans to do the Race Across America. And we want to remind you to be sure to check the show notes. So you'll find things there about Ben and some other items, but you'll also find there a link to Steve Megas, who is a bicycle attorney here in Ohio. So if you'd be interested in his services, you'll find a link to him as well. So with that, let's head on down to Phoenix and Ben Dodge. So Ben Dodge is it Phoenix, Arizona?
It's right near Phoenix. Yep, Gilbert Mesa.
We're happy to have you on the show here, taking time out of your busy life, and I can tell by the background that you must have something to do with bicycles, Ben. Tell me a little about yourself.
You bet. I am a bicycle attorney. I base my practice here in Arizona, but really there's only a handful or so of personal injury attorneys that exclusively do bicycle cases, and I'm one of those guys. So I end up getting calls, from coast to coast. But yeah, if you see the back there, my whole office, you can't really see all the walls, but my whole office is race numbers, medals, and bike jerseys. It looks more like a sports store than a lawyer's office. But I'll tell you, that's a fun feeling for a client it's fun for me. I mean, I have to be here every day, right? So I might as well build something I like. Definitely non-traditional.
Well, I don't know if you saw it or not, but a couple years ago, I have Steve Vegas on the show, a friend of mine here in Cincinnati, who I think most of his practice is centered around bicycle law. I don't know if you know Steve or not.
Yeah, we've communicated a few. I've never met him in person, but yeah, he's a great guy. We've communicated a few times via email about a few things, different issues, a couple cases.
So you practice, it says, exclusively with bicycle issues?
Yeah, so for the last 3.5, 4 years, I've devoted my legal practice and expertise just to bicycle wrecks, bicycle crashes, bicycle accidents, all things bicycle law related. I still own another firm that does other personal injury stuff, family law, bankruptcy, some of that stuff, but I'm uninvolved with those. I have attorneys and staff that work for me. It was about 3.5, 4 years ago that I lost my father-in-law in a bike wreck. I helped the family, of course. He's a really, really cool guy. I mean, really influential in my life, at least. I just loved him. He's one of the few people on this earth that didn't have any guile. He was just a real pure soul. And he got in a nasty wreck, and eventually he died from the medical problems incurred there. And so it was a traumatic thing for us here, as you can imagine. And ironically, or maybe not so ironically, the insurance company offered $0, at first in the case, and they claimed he was at fault. And he wasn't. He was T-boned out of a parking lot. He was legally in the bike lane and all that, and then some guy T-boned him. So they finally took responsibility after a couple of years of fighting and haggling over it. And I realized there, it wasn't by any means the first bike case I did, but it was a lot more personal than normal. And so I decided then and there that I would start a second law firm dedicated just to cyclists, because from my experience, cyclists are kind of the dirty little redhead stepkids in court. Like, no one likes them. They always take blame when it's not their fault. Like a decent percentage of my cases start out with the cyclist being cited. After the car hits them, the cyclist will get the traffic citation. We have to, so I decided I was going to dedicate everything to that because it's more fun. It's more passionate. So that's what I did. It's the first time as an attorney I've been happy, Lee. I'm one of the few people that went to law school with zero desire or intention to be a lawyer. I just went for the education. And I graduated and I thought, what's next? I knew what I was going to do. I'm going to start a business. My wife and I talked about it. I was a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirited guy. Had a few businesses in college that helped pay for things. And I thought, I'm going to start another one. I'm going to build and flip houses. And then I realized I knew nothing about houses or construction. So I thought that's a bad idea. Long story short, I decided that the only business that was worth starting that I might have some experience or expertise in is a law firm. So right out of school, I started a law firm. I turned down several really good offers in Portland and in Phoenix, and started my own shop right out of the gate. And then 3 or 4 years, that was about 11 years ago now. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I started the second one just for bicycle stuff.
Well, your experience there with your father, did you say, or your father-in-law?
My father-in-law, yeah.
Yeah, with your father-in-law, leads me to ask a question.
Sure.
It's the perception of many of us cyclists that the courts generally don't take us seriously. Now, is that just our perception, or is that what you found as a practicing lawyer?
Oh, no, absolutely. And frankly, this is going to sound a little bit negative, and I certainly don't mean it to be, but I'm only employed because insurance companies and court systems and the process from the police investigation all the way to the insurance adjuster and then ultimately to a courtroom scenario, there's a lack of integrity and seriousness towards the cyclist. And there's a legitimate bias there. And I don't mean to be on a soapbox about this, but there is a legitimate bias there against cyclists. If you think about it, even as cyclists, if you're driving a car and you see a fellow cyclist on the side of the road, you get a little anxious. But because you're a cyclist, you're going to give a little more room. But, that anxiety there, because you don't want to hit them, that's intensified for people who are not cyclists. In fact, it turns sometimes into resentment and anger if that cyclist is slowing down traffic or runs a red light or blows through a stop sign or cuts a car off. And that happens for years and years and years to drivers. And those same drivers are the people that are investigating the accident, or they're on the end of the phone as the insurance adjuster, or they're in the jury box. So you've got this bias there, and that's the only reason I end up having a job that's so niched, that's so specialized, is because, you run into wall after wall after wall, and you have to really litigate a lot of these cases to get a fair settlement. Whereas in other PI, car-on-car wrecks, it's incredible. The whole industry is different. I'll give you a personal example. My wife got hit about a year ago in her minivan. And, yeah, shamefully, she had a minivan at the time. It's a long story there. She hates minivans. But anyways, she had a minivan. She got hit. Geico was the insurance carrier for the at-fault driver that hit my wife's van. No joke. We go to the Geico-approved auto shop. Like body shop, right? Like that's what they do. You walk in there, there's the shop manager, there's a rental car company with their own desk inside that place.
Yep.
And Geico has an insurance agent there. It's a one-stop shop. 15 minutes later, I'm walking out with a rental car, a quote on the repairs by the auto shop, and Geico's given me their rundown on what they're going to pay for and when I can expect it all to be done. And I was in and out of there in like 15 or 20 minutes. But nothing like that exists for cyclists. If a cyclist is hurt, more often than not, it's like a deer in the headlight look, right? The insurance companies go, your bicycles can be worth a couple $1,000s, really? Yeah, wheels alone can be worth a couple $1,000s. Let's get serious here, yeah. So it's just a completely different feel. I think it's going to take another decade or two before insurance companies kind of catch up to what cycling really is all about. And so, and the value of bikes, for example, and how to deal with them and what's repairable and what's not repairable. Right now, their ignorance is sometimes my advantage on some of those things, for sure. Yeah.
Well, Ben, also, there's been a lot of grumbling here in Ohio, and I've heard it other places as well, that in the criminal aspect of some of these cases, the judges just don't hand out what I think most cyclists here seem to feel were adequate penalties when they have been violated.
Well, the problem is so Lee, it starts a lot earlier than that, though. The laws that exist on the books there's not much there for somebody who runs over and kills. If you want to commit murder in this country and get away with it, go put your victim on a bicycle and then run over him. There's not much you can get but a couple $100 fine in most states, right? And so the law, it starts there. As a society, we don't really have good laws on the books. But the second problem is, even before he gets to the judge, is the cops don't care. And I love cops. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to pick a fight with law enforcement officers, but it's not high on their priority list to cite a 3-foot violation, for example, where a car drives too close to a cyclist, or all the other few things that do exist. It's not enforceable. It's not a priority to be enforceable for them. And then if it does get into a courtroom, then you have the last step there is the judge. The judges don't typically weigh in on that, right? So it's a problem.
Ben, you were located in Arizona. Do you practice outside the state, or is your practice pretty much limited to Arizona?
Yeah, so legally I'm only licensed in Arizona. So when I get a bigger case and it's outside of the state of Arizona, I'll just use my experience and my passion and my expertise to associate with another attorney in a different state, or depending on the size of the case and the client's needs, I can ask permission of the local judge in that jurisdiction. It's called pro hoc vice, which is just a Latin term there, where I file a motion for permission to practice in that jurisdiction. And smaller cases, I'll help them do it on their own or refer it out to other attorneys. So there's quite a bit of work I do for people outside of the state of Arizona that I don't necessarily get compensated for, or I'll co-counsel it with somebody there, because they might be a decent personal injury attorney, but they don't have bicycle experience. And so I'll share a fee and work out an arrangement that we're all above board, where no one's getting in trouble with licensing issues, but they still get to avail themselves as clients of my experience. So there's a lot of people that take bicycle cases, but I guarantee you there's not anybody that I know of, at least, that rides their bike like I do as an attorney, right? I mean, there's not a lot of really serious committed cyclists that race and train, and they might have once upon a time, but I'm really neck deep in this world, and that's because I love it. And so for now, that's my complete focus, is this bicycle world and industry.
Well, two things. First of all, I hope I would never have to use somebody like you.
Right? Right? No kidding.
Kind of like the firemen, we don't want to have to call you, but we're glad you're there if we have to.
That's right. I say that a lot, Lee, to people, by the way. Say that a lot to people. Hope you never need me.
And another thing, I'm almost sorry that you can make a living doing this.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. It is sad, isn't it? But the fact of the matter is people ride their bikes, thankfully, in our country. And if they're going to get wrecked or crashed, by some car in some sort of accident, they might as well go to somebody that has experience and expertise, as opposed to just some, TV law firm mill, right? Some commercial kind of based firm that doesn't give a, rats about them. So if somebody needs us, we're here, and we're really good at it. But hopefully they don't need us. I agree.
Well, you do have a website, and if you're watching the show here, you'll see it on the bottom of the screen right now, and on the show notes at the bottom of the video. If you're watching it on OhioRAAMShow.com, you'll see a link to that website. Well, like I said, I hope I never need to call somebody like you, but we're glad you're out there. But you're a cyclist as well. Tell us about your cycling background a little bit.
Okay, you ready for this? This might surprise you a little bit. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was a little over 300 pounds. And that wasn't typical for me. Like in high school, I wasn't that way. But I just somehow that happened. And I got a little overweight, or a lot overweight, however you want to look at it. And a friend of mine said, hey, let's go do this sprint triathlon. And I was like, what's a triathlon? Do you have to sprint the whole way? Because I'm not sure I could do that. Anyways, he explained it. He's like, hey, it's only a 400-meter swim, and it's only like a 20-something mile bike ride and a 3.1-mile run. He's like, you could do this. I'm like, okay. So I went, and I thought I was going to drown. I thought I was going to die in that swim. Somehow I survived the swim. I got out on the bike, and I really enjoyed the bike portion, because you can be overweight and bike. You could be hurt and bike. That's one thing I love about cycling is almost anybody can do it. Really, anybody can. You can have one leg and you can still be out there. You've probably seen videos of guys doing that. So I love cycling. Yeah, I love cycling. So I love that part. And then I got to the run, and no kidding, Lee, I walked every step of that 3.1-mile run. I was way too tired to run that run. But when I crossed the finish line, like something magical happened for me. I thought, hey, I just did something hard that, that I didn't think I could do. And that was the beginning of it about 6 or 7 years ago. I've since done about 8 full Ironmans, and I don't even know how many half Ironmans. And then a few years ago, about 3-ish, maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I transitioned from triathlon to road cycling. I really, really liked the team kind of atmosphere that can exist in road cycling. Triathlon is very, very individual. There's no drafting allowed. There's no nothing, right? And so training is typically, I transitioned to road cycling and did a couple of little road races here locally and just had a great experience doing it. About the same time as when my father-in-law had that wreck, by the way, just coincidentally. And that since has turned into, all kinds of fun, hadn't it? I did Race Across the West. It was 2016 because it wasn't this summer; it was the summer before.
Okay.
So 2016, I did Race Across the West. Again, I never heard of it, but a different friend had told me about it. He said, you should try this ultra cycling. I'm a moth to a flame for a good challenge. I love good challenges. I'll share some of those experiences later with you. And I think in January or February, I signed up for it. Had never heard of it. So I only started training for it 3 or 4 months before Race Across the West started. And I went and I did it, and I was lucky enough to finish, but it hurt. I got the whole Schirmer's neck thing. I'm still dealing with it a little over a year later. So this last year, I've been kind of getting ready for RAAM next year. Michael Conti and a couple of these others that have raced and have done really well. It's a really fun community. The RAAM community is a great community. Everybody that I've met, at least, has been really open. Strategy sharing, nutrition sharing, training sharing, and it's just a great group of people, very encouraging. So I've been racing quite a bit. In a week and a half, I have, what is it called? Salt Lake to St. George. It's a 420-something mile race. In fact, Michael Conti will be racing that. He and I just raced this last week and a couple days ago, Lotojaw. That's from Logan, Utah to Jackson, Wyoming. It's the longest one-day USAC sanctioned road race in the country. Did really well. I shaved an hour off of my time. And then a week or two before that, he and I, Conti, raced Saints to Sinners. That's a 522-mile race. He came in first. I came in second. I broke the course record, but he broke it before I did, same day. Sucker. He's a fantastic athlete, as you know. He's fantastic.
So your race with the Race Across the West was your qualifier for RAAM, is that correct?
That's right. So I only have, until I do another qualifier, which I wouldn't be too afraid of doing, I only have this summer, which I missed because I'm still dealing with Schirmer's neck, or 2018. So 2018 is my last RAAM opportunity until I do another qualifier. I'm a little nervous. I'm being honest with you, Lee. I'm a little nervous because my neck still hurts, and that's the thing that takes people out. Something like Schirmer's neck. In fact, I've got this little head strap. You've probably seen some of my posts on Facebook or my blog. I've got this little head strap that my mom sewed on the RAAM course. I went out to Time Station 6, the famous Time Station 6 in Congress. I was hanging out there just cheering people on because I wanted to be a part of it as best I could. So I took a couple of days off and I went out there, stayed in the motorhome and cheered people on. Anyways, I met him. I forget his name, but his crew made this thing that went around his, like a headband with straps that way that fit under his helmet with a tail that attached to a seat. And I posted about that on that RAM forum, and I had a lot of comments there. But so my mom made one, and I've had that at the ready. I need to not get burnt out. That's like our volume's really ramping up right now. In fact, I'm taking a break in a couple weeks to a part of the RAM course. I love Pagosa Springs, and that's right before Wolf Creek Pass. And I'm convinced that my coach will have me do Wolf Creek Pass repeats. I'm sure of it.
Well, Ben, we wish you well on RAM 2018. We hope to see you here in Ohio. Normally, we like to present everybody with a nice thunderstorm with lots of lightning and maybe some flooded roads, but we just like to make a little different challenge for you when you get here. Good luck to you, and we hope to see you in some other events. And we want to thank you for coming on the show today, Ben.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben, for being on the show. We appreciate your taking time out to do this, and we look forward to seeing you here in Ohio as you do the race across America. And I want to thank all of you who support the show. You support us on social media with your likes and shares and retweets, wherever you might find us. That means a lot, helps the show to grow, helps the sport of ultracycling become a little better known. I encourage you on the OhioRAAMShow.com website. At the top, you'll see a link to the OhioRAAM Show Facebook page. You might want to join there, where you get announcements of all the shows, as well as some other items related to ultracycling. Also, on the website, you'll find a place to leave your email address, and you will get notices for future shows. Now, as I said before, Franz Price from Graz, Austria will be our guest next time, November 27th. We're looking forward to that. Franz is the most decorated rider ever in the race across America, and we will explain a little more about that during the show. So we'll see you then in about 10 days. Goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.